up, guys? Today is Saturday, and I have 10 years clean. A whole fucking decade clean from dope and booze and weed and pills and whatever. It's all dope. 10 years clean from drug abuse. And I just consider alcohol a drug, so alcohol was pretty much one of the worst drugs I did. I don't even know where to start. So, 10 years clean. I'm headed to the office. Going to do a tattoo on a friend that I've looked up to in the recovery community for a while. So it's pretty cool on my clean date. Get to tattoo someone else in recovery. Wrote a little bit this morning, reminisced, looked at all the pictures of my beautiful life I have now, which wasn't always the case. Tell you a little bit about my story, I guess. Well, 10 years ago, 10 years and 5 days ago, I tried to kill myself through an overdose because I didn't know how to live anymore. And I didn't like the way I was living, and I didn't know any other solution than I'm gonna take everything I got in my hand and hope it kills me. Because it had gotten that bad. It had gotten to the point of, complete sickness and withdrawal from drugs and alcohol. And if you don't know, alcohol withdrawal is about damn near the worst. It's right up there with heroin. And so I was withdrawing from opiates, benzos, and liquor at extremely high dosages. So I withdrawed pretty fucking bad. Enough to kill some people. I was also at those high levels, though, for a long time, so my body was pretty used to it. Well, yeah, what happened on that day was I was on a lunch break, and I working at a pet store, and I bought all the dope I could buy, which was basically pills. It was Somas, Valium, and some type of Norco or Vicodin, and bought some Jägermeister with a Red Bull, because at the time I was convinced that people couldn't smell that or something. I'm fucking ridiculous thinking. I used to drink peppermint schnapps all the time because I just thought people couldn't smell it. But anyway, I bought, Jägermeister, Red Bull. I had all the pills that I could afford in my hand. I had no more money. My life was in shambles. My wife hated me. I had a house, and I was a good dad, and I was raising kids, and I was paying bills. But the way I felt about myself was in shambles, and I was just a poor picture of health in many ways, including my weight, and obviously using drugs, and just falling apart. And I was sick all the motherfucking time. If I went more than 12 hours without substances, I was severely sick. And so I looked at everything that I had in my hand, and it wasn't going to get me through till the next day. It wasn't going to be 24 hours before I was withdrawing sick again, and I was going to be absolutely broke, and I was going to go through severe withdrawal, which I had gone through so many withdrawals in the last, prior to that, in the 5-6 years leading up to that, so many times. And withdrawals are terrible. If you've never felt it, you don't want to feel it, and it's a terrible fucking feeling. Can't live in your body, can't be in your own skin, crawling out of it, restless legs, can't sleep, sick to your stomach, puking, angry, irritable, sweating, can't see straight. It's unbearable, really. And I didn't know there was help. First of all, I didn't know you could go to a detox. I assumed there was rehab, but I thought that's so many hurdles or whatever to get through, and embarrassing, and blah blah blah. And so I never got help anytime I withdrawal, and I didn't know anything. So I had took all that, hoped it killed me. I chased it down with the liquor, slammed that, went back into work with my lunch in hand because I didn't eat anything. I just took all that shit. And then about an hour later, I was blacked out on the back room floor of the pet store. And they called my wife. They didn't call 911 because I was always fucked up, I guess. But I wasn't always blacked out fucked up, but so they didn't call 911. They called my wife. My wife called our friend Jimmy. Jimmy picked me up off the ground and got me into his car and got me home, and they put me on a futon. And luckily, I woke up 18 hours later to my two boys waking me up. And I could have kind of front-loaded this whole story with part of my dad's story. But my dad overdosed and died from 60 Vicodin and when I was 18. And in that moment when my two boys woke me up from my overdose, or whatever you want to call it, my body handled it. Obviously, I woke up. I remembered what my dad did, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I said, fuck that, I'm not doing that to my kids. So I went, I had my buddy, Zach, his name's Zach as well, he came pick me up. I said, dude, you just gotta take me to mental health, or the hospital. I said, take me to the hospital. Because again, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know there was help. I didn't know there was detox or I just didn't know what to do. So I went to a hospital. I told the hospital, hey, I tried to kill myself yesterday by taking a bunch of dope. Well, that triggered the suicide squad. I didn't know all this was going to happen either. And all the like 6 dudes running, hands behind backs, all white outfits, and just like stood in the hall and took me very nicely and kindly and gently and put me in a specific room. It was weird, and when I was in that room, I found a journal under the bed, under the hospital bed, tucked in, and it was this girl's journal. And she was obviously an addict with mental health issues too, and I just read that while I was kind of waiting for doctors, and then I gave it to the nurses. But I remember that. And then so yeah, anyway, I mean, long story short, they put me in a mental institution. First time in one. I watched my dad was in and out of institutions my whole life. Mental institutions, rehabs, AA, trouble, shit like that. And it was my first time in one. So again, like my dad's kind of watching my dad and my brother my whole life, kind of like I learned a lot because they taught me a lot through actions and literally telling me stuff. My brother always told me, like, don't do this, don't do that, you don't want to end up like this. And so like going in the mental institution was kind of like a shit, I crossed that line, like I'm doing the same shit my dad did, and I don't want to do that to my kids, And so I had I was just ready and willing and surrendered basically as soon as I got to the mental institution. So now I withdrawed. I finished my withdrawals. Well, I shouldn't say finished. It took months to sleep, but I finished like normal terrible withdrawal where you can't even like take a step without shitting yourself. And that took about 5 days, and then a few more days into rehab. About 8 or 9 days, I started eating. But anyway, in the mental institution, I did my withdrawals. They tapered me down with Valium while I was in there. It was a really weird experience. I actually became friends with a young dude that was in there, and we wrote like lyrics together and planned like an album together, and it was just kind of funny. And the nurses knew that I wasn't like I'm crazy, but I wasn't like, the nurses knew I needed rehab and that I had a drug problem, and they told me that, and they told me what to do, so I listened. and I got a bunch of, they got me a bunch of numbers of rehabs. Also, my friend at the time had brought me in clothes. Derek brought me in some clothes, and inside the bag of clothes he had a Narcotics Anonymous book, and he wrote me a letter, and he said, if you don't do anything, or if you do anything, read the first 2 chapters of this book and go to 1016. He said, go to this rehab. And so I had that rehab like stuck in my head, like that's the one I want to go to, because Derek had been back and forth with recovery and whatnot, and so he knew what was up. He said some of the best people you'll meet in life are in recovery. And so the nurses are telling me, Derek told me, so my mind's set, like I'm going to rehab. And so I remember calling every rehab in the state. I wanted to go to that one, but I called them all because it was like, you got to get a bed, because they're going to kick you out of the mental institution soon. And so I called them all, and none of them had openings. In the one place, 1016, they had one scheduled person for the next day, and if that person didn't show up, which happens, they would have a bed. And I remember that I could have that bed. And I remember praying that night that person got the help that they needed. And if it's to take that bed, then let them have the bed. And then I had to ask the mental institution if I could stay one more day, because they wanted me to go home. But my house was I had a grow up there, and so I had a basement full of weed, and a forest in my basement, and a wife that hated me at the time, and shit was just not good. And I was afraid to go home. Like the liquor store a block away that I used every day with scared the shit out of me. So I was like, please let me. So they let me stay. They said, you're the first person to ever ask to stay here longer, which was funny. And then lo and behold, the next day that person did not show up for their bed. So they I called them up, and they said I could have the bed. So then the cook who worked at the rehab came and picked me up and took me to the rehab. And still withdrawing, still in the midst of chaos. I've never been in this situation before. I'm just doing what people tell me, and they're trying to help me, and I'm listening. And went to rehab and just opened up my heart and did all the work, and I put in full-ass effort, So I stayed there for about 30 days, and yeah, so that was 10 years ago. Been clean since. I went to outpatient for I went for 18 months to outpatient. Started doing 12-step fellowships, writing all the time, and then actually changing my life and how I act and what I do and what I care about, and changed everything. So yeah, that's today, man. Whole decade, 10-piece. I'm pretty happy about that. It's really cool. So little side story for you about me, and then didn't do back to some of the other stuff. Didn't do the gym today. I am down 10 pounds already in a week from cutting, and so that is not like that's not like all fat loss. I doubt, I know it's not. It's like I've cut back carbohydrates quite a bit. I'm still taking in carbohydrates, but some of that was probably stored water in my muscles, and like I don't know. I wasn't expecting 10 pounds that fast, so it's falling right off of there. This morning was the weigh-in that showed 10. I'm fucking happy about that, though, I'll tell you that. So we'll see how this keeps going. We're at 2,800 calories a day, and we are tracking. Yesterday I fucked up and I went over that, so I jumped on the treadmill for a half hour, got myself back 300 calories. I probably was still over a little bit yesterday, but that's how I made up for it. I overate, jumped on the treadmill. So, yeah, no gym today, and that's okay. We're gonna do this tattoo, be in celebratory mode of the clean time, go celebrate tomorrow night with some friends, get a coin, that kind of thing. And so that's it. There's a whole bunch more I can say. I'm an open book about my history and my recovery, and maybe we'll talk more about that some other time. But about to get to the office. Gonna sage this bitch. Gonna sage the office, cleanse it, and then rock on the day. I think that's it. Peace out. GoPro, stop recording.